Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at. Welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at the pitching for today, the 12th of May. It is Monday. We do have an 8-game main slate ahead of us this evening. One game with some potential weather, which is a little frustrating because I do think it's a couple pitchers that we should be considering, especially Grant Holmes, but it is what it is. We'll have to pay attention to the updates throughout the day. No real weather outside of that one as far as wind, etc. It is warm in Texas and Houston, but Texas could obviously play with the roof closed, depending on how they're feeling about that. That can dictate things. I believe when Texas closes the roof, actually I'm not really sure. I'm not even going to say one way or the other because I don't remember the numbers that I looked at. I do know that those ballparks that have mechanical roofs, there is a difference between whether they play better open or closed. And I think each park is kind of different among them. I think most of them, when they play closed, play more towards the pitchers, but I'm not sure if Texas falls into that ballpark or that area. But with that said, we're here to talk about pitching. We do have some ownership up on DFSArmy.com. Interesting to see some of these numbers. Tyler Mahle not being the biggest shock, or closer to being the biggest shock, is interesting. Michael King against an Angels team that strikes out a lot definitely makes a ton of sense. Reminder, this is a first look at pitching. Obviously, things kind of change as the day goes on. We dig in deeper. We give updates to the members at dfsarmy.com as well. I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you do play in FanDuel, I'll cut my pool in half or so. You don't have to be as creative. Pricing isn't as tight. It allows you to get the stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. With all of that said and done, let's dig into the actual pitching matchups on the slate. Lowest game total, or tied for the lowest game total here between Pittsburgh and the Mets. Paul Skeens. Walks have been up the last couple. Aside from that big strikeout game against the Dodgers, strikeouts haven't been there this season. Now, I do have some thoughts on all that with him adjusting his arm angle, and it might take him a little bit to get used to that. Not really sure why they felt the need to play around with him, or if he did it on his own, whatever, after having such a dominant rookie season. But it is what it is, and I digress. We get him with a K-prop of 6.5 juices on the under. That puts him at the second best K-prop behind Michael King this evening. There are actually only 4 pitchers above a 4.5 K-prop. So there's kind of some separation at the top. Skeens is plus 160 to earn the W, which is kind of in the middle-ish range. Peterson plus 205, obviously bottom third-ish, I would say, on the numbers. I don't have the exact rankings in front of me. But Peterson obviously gets the better matchup, but he hasn't been great since his first start of the year. The start against St. Louis, win-outs, a win number away from 24 fantasy point performance, which would have been strong. So he hasn't been terrible. Coming off of a big walk performance, kind of out of character. He did start out with 8 walks the first 2 starts, but had just 1 in the 4 previous before his last start. Gets an extra day of rest after throwing 104 pitches as well. Easily his highest outing. Obviously, I'm just going to pick on Pittsburgh with pitching, especially with left-handed pitching, I think. Obviously, it just weakens somebody like O'Neal Cruz if he even is in a lineup, or if he sits against a left-handed pitcher, and that still makes that lineup weaker. So I have to be somewhat interested. We all played Chris Sale yesterday because of the matchup. Sale kind of crapped the bed in the 6th or 5th inning, but he was on his way to a top-tier performance and still racked up strikeouts. Both guys going to be in play for me. The Mets are minus 166 favorites. Peterson's K-Prop's at 5.5. So that is one of the 5 top K-Props on the slate. So there actually is 5 guys at 5.5 or better out of the 16 pitchers. Next game, the one with some rain. Jake Irvin, somebody that's had some respectable performances this season. Nearly 30 in back-to-back starts against Pittsburgh and in Coors. So that tells me that there's enough upside in him for me to be somewhat interested here. His best starts have come on the road as well. Obviously, those 2 massive starts kind of skew the numbers because then in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia he got lit up. So it is what it is there. Not necessarily a big K guy overall, so that's obviously a worry. Walks can be up. It's a dangerous spot. But if we got the all clear, I'd consider him. The more I look at the list of names and how I'm planning on making my pool, I'm going to guess that Irvin's not going to make it. But if all things were normal, I would say he's in consideration, at least. Grant Holmes, after a strong start against the Dodgers, really struggled against Cincinnati, allowed some home runs, etc. Bad starts in 2 out of his last 3, but 3 out of his last 5 have been strong. It is a plus matchup. I just don't remember his splits off the top of my head. Washington has a couple really tough left-handed. I believe Holmes, prior to this game against Cincinnati, all of his home runs at the major league level were hit by right-handed batters. So I believe he is a reverse splits guy. And with that being the case, I think he does get a slight boost against Washington's lineup. K-Prop's just 4.5 with juice on the over. But the Braves are minus 192 favorites. But game total of 8.5 juiced over as well. I believe that's one of the highest on the slate. But such a strong favorite. I think Holmes has to be in play as long as we learn more about that rain going on in Atlanta. Wind blowing in Wrigley for this next game. Nothing major. DraftKings shows some rain. Our weather station says it should be completely fine. Colin Ray, definitely the guy that we're going to consider. Hasn't looked good the last couple starts, but prior to that actually looked pretty solid. Kind of up and down. Not a super reliable pitcher by any means, but he's taken on a weaker Miami lineup. He's a minus 258 favorite, second largest on the slate. K-Prop at just 4.5 juiced on the over, but he's plus 125 to earn the W, which puts him at, I believe, the 3rd best win odds of any starting pitcher on the slate. So it's such a sizable number that I think we have to be in on Colin Ray with some slight wind blowing in at Wrigley against a weaker offense. Never going to really be considering Cal Quantrill. He's coming off of a very strong start. It was against a tough Dodgers squad. Had a strong start against Atlanta earlier, but he's had some really bad starts, around those 2. So, if he goes into Chicago, shuts down this strong Cubs offense, so be it. I'll take an L for the day and I'll move on to tomorrow. Tyler Mahle, definitely going to be a popular guy. 0 strikeouts last start, 1 strikeout 3 starts ago. Those are somewhat worrisome. He has some underlying metrics that kind of say that his start to the season isn't completely real. Maybe a little bit of luck on his side. But he is the favorite on the slate, tied with Michael King at plus 110 during the W. K-Prop at 5.5 with juice on the over, which puts him at the 3rd best K-Prop on the slate. And like I mentioned, minus 265 favorite. Texas is the largest favorite on the slate. We're just going to pick on Colorado with pitching at this point. We could have done it for most of the series in Coors recently as well. So we're just going to keep riding that. We're playing Tyler Mahle. Chase Dollander, big prospect name, big arm, etc. Walks are an issue. Home runs can be an issue. I just don't think we have a reason to go there. Texas bats seem to be warming up. I just don't think I need to go there. I think there's going to be some people talking about them because overall on the season, Texas's offense has been almost non-existent. But I do believe, I did mention that for the Sunday video, and they went out and hit more home runs on Sunday as well. I just believe that the Texas bats are going to wake up, and they aren't going to continue to be as bad as they have been. So that's why I don't think I can be on Chase Dollander. Waka versus Gusto. Not an overly exciting pitching matchup, but Waka shut down this Houston squad just a few starts ago. His second best start of the year, which falls behind his last start, which was absolutely dominant, but it was the White Sox. The Astros are actually minus 122 favorites, but Waka with a K-prop of 4.5 juiced on the under, Gusto 3.5 juiced over. Waka plus 160 to earn the W, which matches Skeens, while Gusto is all the way down at plus 280. Gusto probably not going to make my pool. Did struggle with the White Sox his last time out. Kansas City, not a big strikeout team. Gusto did have a strong performance against Toronto, but aside from that, upside just hasn't been there. I do like what he's offers, and I think in the future he's going to come into play a little bit more often. I just don't think that this is the best of matchup for him, even though Kansas City's offense isn't overly dangerous. They just aren't striking out a whole lot. Yankees, Mariners. Clark Schmidt and the Yankees minus 148 favorite. Schmidt plus 160 to earn the W, tied with Waka and Skeens. K-prop of 5.5, basically a pick'em, so he's tied with Peterson for the third best K-prop on this slate. Or fourth best, I should say. I don't really have any interest in Hancock against the Yankees. I know he's coming off a pretty solid start, but even then he just 10 fantasy points. Solid start against Boston, 23. That's pretty strong. I just don't think we need to rely on him against the Yankees. 3 runs or less in each of his last 4 starts, I get it. But he just allows plenty of base runners. Not a huge K guy. I'm going to end up passing, even though it is a ballpark I like taking pitching in. Clark Schmidt, I think, is in play. 2 very solid starts in a row against teams that don't strike out all that much. Still was able to put up 10 strikeouts in 11 innings. I think Seattle's offense is a little overblown from the first few weeks of the season. I don't think they're going to be that good as the season progresses. And this is a ballpark, like I mentioned, where I like taking pitching. So I think I am going to be on Schmidt and his K-prop of 5.5 in this game. Angels, Padres. I don't think I can get to Kikuchi. I think San Diego has been striking out a little bit more recently, but Jackson Merrill's back. They are coming out of a series in Coors, so I think that should give a boost to Kikuchi a little bit. But do I really want to rely on Kikuchi? I don't know. He's plus 280 to earn the W, which is tied with Gusto at the bottom. But he does have a 4.5 K prop with juice on the over. Game total is just 7, juice to the over. But the Padres are minus 230 favorites in this one, which is why King is going to be the most popular, as we saw on our projected ownerships. He's up to 48% right now. Ton of upside. The Angels are striking out a ton on the season, second most in baseball. So I think we just end up playing Michael King. Really no big questions there. Last game, Arizona against San Francisco. Mediocre pitchers, but I think Merrill Kelly's been throwing the ball better since his bad start to the season. And since I like pitching in this ballpark, I'm going to be considering Kelly. K-prop of 4.5, juices on the under, but the Diamondbacks are minus 118 favorites. He's plus 170 to earn the W. Verlander plus 210 to earn the W. K-prop of 4.5 as well. Pitching in this ballpark, yes, but I don't think I want to take Verlander. I don't really love right-handed pitching against Arizona whenever possible. So he's probably likely on the outside looking in, but he's at least in consideration. I just think we probably end up removing him. But there we have it. There's our first look at pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on. Get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc. Links will be in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, R-A-Z, for 10% off monthly. And as always, best of luck, everybody.